Hello and welcome to PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale history, where we will be taking a look at a character from Sony's brawler and taking a look at their origins and seeing where all those moves came from. In today's episode, we are taking a look at Sackboy, who is the star of the major 2D platformer franchise Little Big Planet. In order to understand Little Big Planet as a series, we need to understand exactly what the actual planet is. According to the intro of each game, it's a cosmic construct built out of dreams and imagination fueled by the creativity of people on Earth. Ideas are what keep Little Big Planet alive. Sounds very philosophical, but it's not. It all relates to the game's ethos of play, create and share, which means not only are there a bunch of levels to play around in, but you can create a whole bunch of levels for yourself and let them loose on the world, sharing them with others. How marvellous. As a result, the aesthetics of Little Big Planet are based around arts and crafts, with everything made out of sponge, and bits of wood, and various contraptions that look as if they've been made by some mad Blue Peter presenter. And the key inhabitant of this world? Well, let's ask Stephen Fry.
On the Little Big Planet, you're a little sack person. This one is you? Oh, bless. You're quite a cute one.
Indeed. In fact, not only are sack people cute, but they're also a perfect representation of the craft theme of the games. Sackboy isn't a complex character. He's a player avatar in a world where your imagination rules. He's a customizable cloth doll that runs, jumps, collects bubbles, and builds worlds. Bit of an odd choice for PlayStation All-Stars then. From a character standpoint, certainly, because he doesn't seem like much of a fighter, but he does have a few tricks up his sleeve. So let's take a look at some of those moves. It's notable when you relate to the fact that he's more of a creator type character, that he only has one melee move, which is a slap. You see, Sackboy doesn't have many attack moves in his original game. There are enemies, sure, but they're largely dispatched through jumping on them or through solving puzzles. In fact, the slap isn't even used on enemies. It's actually a way of messing around with other players. You see, in Little Big Planet, it's entirely possible to waggle Sackboy's arms around like some mad windmill. And through this, it's entirely possible to swing your arms at fellow players and slap them. It's completely silly, but then, so is Sackboy. So based on this logic, how on earth does Superbot construct a moveset for this cheeky little burlap fellow? Simple. They turn to the many gadgets of Little Big Planet. Early on in the first game, Sackboy gained a jetpack which allowed him to fly around. It was utilised in a variety of ways, from a simple physics-based weight distribution puzzle to more dangerous things like transporting explosives. Be careful, Sackboy! Oh, never mind. The jetpack also made an appearance in the karting spin-off game, which was appropriately called Little Big Planet Karting. This time around, it was used as a speed boost. Drive into the jetpack and off you rocket, forcing your opponents to eat your dust. The reason I bring up karting is the fact that the PlayStation All-Stars jetpack move kind of resembled the karting appearance more than its original appearance in the first game. Whereas in the first game the jetpack pretty much just allows you to fly around, the All-Stars version is more of a shooting forward kind of motion, similar to the speed boost from karting. There's also an upwards variation which is entirely unique to this game. Now the question is, what on earth is that thing that Sackboy is driving into, and why does it look so much like something from his PlayStation All-Stars moveset? Well, I'm glad I asked. You see, that thing is a bounce pad, and it first appeared in Little Big Planet 2. It was a new feature introduced to expand the jumping puzzles, giving Sackboy a way to jump even higher than usual. It was found in various levels, and they were static tiles that basically, if you stepped on them, they would send you shooting up into the air. Look at him go! However, you may notice that Sackboy has no control over the bounce pads in gameplay, and in fact, the use of a shield in PlayStation All-Stars is entirely unique to the game. The actual bounce move is very similar to the actual thing, but actually placing it is more like create mode. We'll talk about create mode a little bit later. Shortly after being introduced to the bounce pads, the jumping mechanics got a newer dimension through the Grappling Hook. The Grappling Hook was given to you by the eccentric Larry da Vinci, and with this, Sackboy could grapple and swing, and occasionally used the Grappling Hook with the bounce pads to reach even more unusual places. It's a fun gadget, and it appeared frequently in the game, and was even used in the dispatching of the final boss. Final boss we'll talk about in a later video, so stay tuned for that one. The Grappling Hook was very easy to use in Little Big Planet though. It auto targeted the nearest spongy surface, and you could adjust your position on the rope by using up and down, and you could swing using left and right. PlayStation All-Stars version is a little bit different because it just heads straight up and does not auto-target. The next gadget Sackboy encounters in Little Big Planet 2 is the Grabinator. Sounds incredibly impressive and important, I know, but it's little more than a pair of gloves that allow Sackboy to lift things up. They were originally introduced to help cake entrepreneur Victoria von Bobthepetferret defend her train against attack by enemies. It worked, with Sackboy lifting objects over his head and he could throw them wherever he wished. Like all his other gadgets, it works a little differently in PlayStation All-Stars. Instead of throwing an opponent after lifting them above his head, this time he will just perform some kind of suplex move as he lifts them over himself and slams them down behind him. As part of the same train defense level, one of the items that Sackboy can pick up and throw around with gay abandon is a ball of gooey jam. This jam was versatile, used for smushing against high switches to open routes, as well as for taking down a variety of baddies. So naturally, it's a projectile move for Sackboy in PlayStation All-Stars. Now continuing with the confectionery theme, let's move on to the Cakeinator. Shortly after the Grabinators, you get a device from Victoria, which is the Creainator. The technical explanation for what a Creainator does is that it's a hat that shoots stuff. What it shoots is entirely up to the person who sets it up, who creates it, if you will. And naturally, Victoria von Bobthepetferret, being a cake entrepreneur, turned into the Cakeinator. It shoots cakes. The cakes were fairly versatile, since they had super sticky icing on them and would stick to walls and floors, allowing Sackboy to use the spongy part as a platform, something that was frequently incorporated into puzzles. The Cakeinator in All-Stars is actually pretty accurate to its original form. The cake flies out in a straight line, it will stick to the ground and will continue to be effective as a projectile, even while it's sticking on the ground. The only major difference is the fact that now you can't aim it. So that's gadgets, and now it's time to talk Popits. A Popit is a portable menu that Sackboy carries around everywhere with him, allowing him to perform a variety of tasks, such as laying down stickers and changing his outfit. We'll be talking about those a little bit later. But it also acts as its tool bag in create mode, and conveniently, the Popit also makes an appearance in all of the following moves. See, in create mode, Sackboy could pull out various materials, logic tools, connector tools, a variety of other tools, all used in the construction of a level. One major tool required in all levels was a checkpoint. A checkpoint, for those of you who don't play games, allows you to respawn somewhere other than the start of the level, although a checkpoint also existed at the start of every level anyway, just because it was where you popped out from. Checkpoints in Little Big Planet took the form of gong shield things. It's a technical term. And they had a strip of light around them that acted as Sackboy's life counter. Every time Sackboy died, a portion of this light strip would go black, and eventually the checkpoint would flash red and sound an alarm to say, hey, you only live once, so be careful, okay? That said, checkpoints were also used as a means of escape, since Sackboy also had a self-destruct button. Now the self-destruct took the form of Sackboy puffing himself up so much that he'd burst, resulting in a need to respawn back at the last checkpoint. The use of checkpoints in this way, as a means of escape, is actually a teleport move for Sackboy in PlayStation All-Stars. But, so that he doesn't have the limited amount of lives, the checkpoint that he throws out is an unlimited life checkpoint, introduced as free DLC for the first game. So what else does Sackboy have in his Popit, in his little bag of tricks? Well, how about some deadly hazards designed to cause havoc and mayhem to all who wander into his levels? There were various types of hazards in Little Big Planet, ranging from deadly gas, to face-melting plasma, to gruesome-looking spikes. But the one we're most interested in is electricity. In Little Big Planet, it was possible to electrify elements in your levels once you placed them, causing instant death to anyone who touched them. How cruel. In PlayStation All-Stars, Sackboy has gained the ability to place an already electrified element down on the battlefield. This instant electrification wasn't in Little Big Planet, but if you were to replicate the entire process from create mode, it would be a little bit tactically useless to use the move. So this just speeds it up a bit and makes it a little bit more instant, a little bit easier to use. Anyway, stickers. Yes, let's talk about stickers. Steven, tell me about stickers.
Collecting stickers is the height of cool in Little Big Planet.
Absolutely. They were the most common prize that Sackboy could pick up in Little Big Planet, and they had multiple uses. As well as a way of decorating your pod, which was the central hub area that acted as the game's main menu, They could also be used to jazz up your created levels, and in some instances could even be used as keys, so that you could gain even more goodies. So naturally they became throws in PlayStation All-Stars. Well, maybe it is a bit of an odd choice, considering that Sackboy does indeed have a throw move that we've already discussed with the Grabinators. And let's face it, in their original appearance, stickers don't really scream out offensive move. Well, unless you spell out offensive move in letter stickers and add a screaming mouth, but that's just being silly. Before we move on to the supers, which are very important to PlayStation All-Stars, I should probably talk about the fan. The odd thing about this fan move in PlayStation All-Stars is that it has no origin whatsoever in Little Big Planet. I'm not entirely sure why it's there, but it is. So, there we go. Now, as cute as Sackboy is, dry brown burlap is so last century. No need to be sad, little Sack, but we can change this. Remember how I said that Sackboy is basically a fully customizable player avatar? Well, the best way to be this is to have a wide variety of costumes that you can mix and match and play around with, and indeed, Sackboy has this. As well as unlocking a variety of different costumes through playing through the levels and picking up prize bubbles, we'll get to those, it is also possible to go onto the PlayStation Store and buy a whole bunch of other costumes, many of which are based on other PlayStation All-Stars fighters, like Kratos and Nathan Drake, and others. Unsurprisingly, due to the fact that this was already a kind of cross-franchise referencing going on, they made it his level 1. Sackboy will throw on the costume of another fighter and perform one of their moves. We're not going to talk about Drake's rope swing, or Parappa's skateboard, or Cole's amp just yet. Those are for later videos. And speaking of Cole, let's take a look at Sackboy's level 2 super. And unlike the other hazards that we spoke about earlier, this one was not an instant kill. Yes, you heard me right. It's a little bit unusual, the fact that they've done that, but I think the reasoning is that Cole's are kind of a little bit more iconic than some of the other hazards, perhaps. Also, in the same fashion as the electric pad, another thing that's unusual about this placement of the coals is the fact that the coals are already on fire. In his original game, in order to make these coals, you would need to set fire to a material that you have already placed. So, we talked about collecting stickers and collecting costumes and collecting a whole bunch of other things. How did you collect things in Little Big Planet? Bubbles, my dear viewer. Bubbles. In Little Big Planet you could find two different types of bubbles that littered the landscape. The first was a small bubble, known as a score bubble, and unsurprisingly, what this did was it gave you score points. It gave you points to go towards your score that would turn up at the end of the level. And if you collected enough of these, you would gain a multiplier which gave you more points. So, if you could find a whole bunch of score bubbles all grouped together in a big pile and having a big party, then you, my friend, are in for a big old score at the end of it. There's also a second type of bubble. It's a bigger bubble, and this bubble actually contained prizes. If you want to flesh out your level in as many ways as possible, with as many stickers and as many materials, as many different wondrous things as you could possibly find, these things are the things you really wanted to look for. Since score and prize bubbles are such a big part of Little Big Planet, it makes sense that they got transferred over into his moveset. And it's kind of unusual, but it kind of makes weird sense that it's his level 3. Sackboy will dump all his opponents into prize bubbles and then collect them as prizes and I guess gain their souls or something, which is entirely unlike Sackboy and very strange, but anyway. So that's Sackboy. As you can see, very odd character, very unusual character, but now I hope, thanks to these origins and these comparisons to the original game, you can kind of see why he's such an unusual character and why he is the way he is. We'll be doing more of this in the next episode, where we'll be taking a look at another character. I'm not going to tell you who. I'll let you figure that one out on your own. Stay tuned.